Today, I didn't study any Korean. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about language. I like this shot here in the bathroom. We play golf. Don't forget I'm down here for my wife's birthday, a milestone birthday. She's in the next room, so I'm doing it here in the bathroom, and I noticed that I show up on the back mirror, which makes me look a bit ridiculous, which is good. We need to recognize that we are kind of ridiculous little figures strutting around here, thinking that we're very important. Language. Today in Canada, in the National Post, there was an article about a store in Elmer, Quebec, right across from Ottawa, where l'Office de la Langue Française sent a message saying that while the store is bilingual and the staff is bilingual and the customers are bilingual, they have an English language Facebook page, and if they don't translate it into French, they will be liable to financial and legal sanctions, which is completely ridiculous. But what's even almost more ridiculous were the comments on the National Post article by English Canadians who basically were expressing, I would say, scorn for Quebec, Quebecers, like everybody is kind of identified with this action by the language zealots. And of course, comments on a newspaper article on the internet or anything on the internet is not like conversation amongst people whom you know. It's more like drive-by shootings where people will say anything, completely stupid comments, which leave you with a very poor impression of the group that those people represent. But it kind of reminds me of the situation in Ukraine. Some of the comments, I haven't heard a lot, but you know, first of all, you have the zealots. No sooner have they taken power, these nationalists from the Western Ukraine, they don't know where their next, how they're going to pay their government employees. The country's bankrupt, and the first thing they think of doing is repealing a law that gave Russian and other minority languages official status in those regions of the country where there were more than 10% of the population. Are those people completely stupid? So then now we have all kinds of problems in the Ukraine. I'm not saying that it was caused, that the issues in the Crimea were caused by this, but certainly those actions didn't help the situation. Russian, people sometimes say, well, language should be a unifying factor, and if we all, learned more languages, we wouldn't go to war. Well, the Yugoslav example doesn't prove that. They all spoke the same language. People in Northern Ireland can't seem to get along, and they speak the same language. Russian should be a unifying factor in Ukraine. They all speak that language from what I can gather. But then, of course, some of the comments you get, like from Russians that come on either on my YouTube channel or elsewhere on the internet, trying to prove scientifically, some guy, Wasserman, that, Ukrainian is an artificial language. Genetically, they're no different. First of all, genetics doesn't matter because Ukrainians, Northern Russians are probably, in fact, are genetically more similar to Baltic people. Southern Ukrainians, probably the Ukrainians and the Russians are very similar. It doesn't matter. National identity is not about genetics, it's not about DNA. It's about history, institutions, self-identification, recognition, all those kinds of things. So to have some guy talk about scientific reasons why the Ukraine is not different. Whether or not the Ukraine should ever have separated from Russia, I have no opinion. Whether, Crimea should separate, I have no opinion. But genetics and Ukrainian as an artificial language, or someone come out and say, well, they speak Ukrainian when they're speaking in public, but then privately they speak Russian. Well, so what? So what? It's more like the kinds of comments were on that the National Post article. It's really up to them what they want to do, and why is it so bad that they separated or don't separate or whatever. The Czechs and the Slovaks separated. They're as happy as can be. The various Yugoslav republics, if they had separated peacefully, they'd be further ahead today. Quebec could separate. They ask Canadians who are heaping scorn on Quebec, should Quebec separate? No. Well, if you don't like them so much, maybe they should separate. And of course, on an individual basis, Canadians, English, and French get along fine. But whenever they identify a group, they have a separatist government. I don't think the majority of Quebecers favor the government going after some little ladies' wear store that has an English language Facebook page. Of course they don't. But if Quebec separated, it wouldn't matter. Yeah, it's kind of in the middle of the country, but Switzerland is in the middle of the EU, and people drive across it. It doesn't matter. Things that people get upset about, and then they go to war over, like the First World War. People still writing books about what caused the First World War because people don't really know in retrospect what people were fighting for, and they died by the millions. So that's kind of where I am today, a bit sad that we see so much stupidity, and language should be a unifying force. And really, I must say, coming down to the States, it's always fun to travel. Wherever I travel, people are friendly. When you're a foreigner, people are especially friendly. People like to get together, eat, talk, enjoy each other's company. That's what really matters. Not getting all excited over things that, really don't matter. I mean, people get all, getting back to the Austrians had to be in the Balkans. They've had to force their way. And then the Serbians bumped off the heir apparent, so then they declared war on Serbia. It was a big deal for them to be in the Balkans. And 4 years later, they all voted, the German-speaking Austrians voted to join Germany. So all of a sudden, that was the thing they wanted to do. Ukrainians 30 years ago wouldn't have thought of separating from the Soviet Union. Now they're separate, they like that, whatever, I don't know. Lots of wasted energy. Anyway, that's my video for today.